After Charles XII's swift victory at the Duna River crossing, he managed to conquer the Polish-Lithuanian vassal state of Courland. Charles was resolved to make further incursions into the territory of the Commonwealth in order to dethrone Augustus II. As he prepared for his campaign, he was approached by the magnate noble Sapieha family, who were seeking protection against their rivals, the Ogiński family, that was supported by Augustus II. The Sapiehas had much influence in the court during the reign of Jan Sobieski Go III, and other noble families that included the Ogińskis had risen up in rebellion against them. Charles marched and defeated a force of 1,000 to 2,000 Polish troops led by Grzegorz Antoni Ogiński at Tryszki on December 15, 1701. After a couple more minor engagements at Darszczynskis and Vilnius, King Charles marched into an undefended Warsaw on May 14, 1702. Augustus knew he had to continue the fight, and so raised a new army in Livonia of 24,000 troops and met Charles's army near the Polish village of Kliszow on July 18, 1702. The Swedish and Saxon Polish-Lithuanian armies encamped roughly 8 kilometers apart from each other. The camps were separated by a large wood and a swamp, with the Swedes north of the woods. Augustus's camp was naturally secured by a narrow stretch of swamp to the north and the swampy valley of the Nida River to the west. At 9 a.m., Charles moved his army through the woods on the morning of July 19th, and at 11 a.m. arrived north of the swampy stretch to assault Augustus's camp. The Swedish army consisted of 8,000 infantry, 4,000 cavalry, and only 4 guns, since the bulk of the artillery was stuck in the forest. Augustus's army consisted of 7,500 Saxon infantry, 9,000 Saxon cavalry, 660 Polish infantry, and 6,640 Polish cavalry, and fighting in their final battle after 130 years of battlefield dominance were 1,240 of the elite winged hussars, and 46 guns. The Swedish right wing was under the command of Carl Gustaf Reichenwald, the middle first line under Hans Henrik von Lieven, and the second under Knut Göransson Post. The left wing had Frederick IV, Duke of Holstein-Gottorp, first in command, and Otto Wellenich in the second. The Saxon left wing and center was under the command of Adam Heinrich von Steinau, respective Johann Matthias von der Schulenberg, and the right cavalry wing was commanded by Jakob Heinrich von Flemming. The Polish Pancerny cavalry on the right wing was commanded by Hieronym Augustin Lubomirski. Charles XII's strategy was to rout the Commonwealth forces in an envelopment maneuver and reposition his forces to strengthen his flanks. The battle opened with an exchange of cannon fire amongst the Saxon and Swedish guns. The Swedes took the initiative at 2 in the afternoon and launched an assault on Lubomirski's Polish flank. However, the commander of the assault, Frederick IV, was killed early on and the advance halted. The Polish army then launched 2 subsequent counterattacks but was beaten back by the Swedish infantry, as was the Saxon assault over the marsh under von Flemming, thanks to the timely arrival of King Charles himself to rally his men after their commander had fallen. Lubomirski and Flemming then withdrew and thus left the Saxon middle right flank unprotected, which was caught in a Swedish pincer and was slowly crushed. Lubomirski was pursued by Swedish cavalry all the way to the village of Kiev. During this time, the Swedish right flank under Wechweld was attacked by the Saxons under von Steinau, who tried to cut off Wechweld's connections with the Swedish main force. Fierce fighting took place between 21 Swedish squadrons of cavalry with about 2,100 men against 34 Saxon squadrons with no less than 4,250 men. The Swedes, in their usual manner, attacked with wedge formation and managed to repel the Saxon attack. Charles advanced into the Saxon camp by 4:30 and managed to evict them into the surrounding swamps. After this, he managed to capture the Saxon guns. The Swedes now attempted to encircle the Saxons by taking the crossing of the Nida. General Schulenberg, whose infantry in the center had scarcely been attacked, now committed himself to a fierce defense of the crossing, allowing the majority of Saxon units to withdraw. And at 5 o'clock the battle was over. Up to 300 Swedes died with 800 wounded. About 1,800 Saxons and Poles were left dead on the field, with another 1,700 taken prisoner. Charles had won the battle, but due to Schulenberg's actions, the Saxon army had evaded complete annihilation. The Swedes had captured the Saxon artillery, war chest, and King Augustus's entire baggage, as well as 60 standards and banners. On July 31st, Charles and his army marched into Krakow and consolidated control of Poland through 1703. Augustus withdrew with his army to Sandomierz. Charles had initially wanted to march into Saxony to completely eliminate the heart of Augustus's government, but cancelled this plan after realizing that it would only serve to aid the French king Louis XIV. since Saxony was still a part of the Holy Roman Empire, which was at war with France. Another reason was because Charles wanted to create a public opposition against Augustus in Poland, which would be difficult if the people were victims to a Swedish invasion. Regardless, more battles between the two monarchs were soon to come.